Kyrie Irving and LeBron James were perfectly suited to play together.
Turns it over. James keeps his dribble somehow. Irving back to James. Oh, he throws it down. Irving throws it up to James, who throws it down.
Kyrie Irving at his best years, obviously with LeBron.
Irving the drive, back to James. Cavaliers lead and a foul. But he batted it right to LeBron James. Irving alley-oop and throws it down. Alley-oop to James.
LeBron James and Kyrie Irving have shown the ability in the very recent past to get it done. Irving off the backboard. James.
The three ball for Cleveland today has been sensational, but their ball moved.
Another from way downtown. LeBron James loves it.
Kyrie and the way he plays, he is an elite scorer, an unstoppable scorer that you can't double team, especially if there's a Bron or somebody else on the. So yes, that type of score pairs up great with Bron.
Irving gets past Drummond. Does he hold on to his pivot foot? I guess so, as James banks it in.
You put LeBron and Kyrie together, that's a really good team.
Kyrie Irving with a steal. 3-on-1. Alley-oop to James. Beautifully executed off another fine defensive play. Irving, clear path to the basket. Layup, he missed it. James on the follow.
When you win a championship, you do something special. You create a bond with that player for life. They did something special in Cleveland that'll never get forgotten.
Iguodala to Curry, back to Iguodala, up for the layup. Oh, blocked by James. LeBron James with the rejection. Irving and Curry, one-on-one. Irving puts it up. It's good. Kyrie Irving from downtown. It's over. Cleveland is a city of champions once again. The Cavaliers are NBA champions.
And there's LeBron. Was an emphatic stuff behind Curry on that last play. It's almost like they played together.
Thoughts on playing with Kyrie again?
It was phenomenal. It was phenomenal anytime you get to get back, playing one of your old teammates.
Kyrie Irving doesn't want to be LeBron James' little brother. He doesn't want to be LeBron James' sidekick.
The deal is agreed to. Kyrie Irving to the Boston Celtics.
Their relationship is why Kyrie wanted to leave.
Did you speak to LeBron James or talk to LeBron James before you and your representatives met with ownership and let them know what you wanted out? Why not?
Why would I have to?
You called up LeBron. Why did you make the phone call?
It takes a very, very strong individual to, replay a lot of the experiences that you've had. And yeah, apologizing, that was a step for me just to move forward in my life.
Kyrie has had discussions about reuniting with LeBron on the Lakers. Would Kyrie going to the Lakers be a good move?
It will never happen. It will never, ever happen.
From what I'm told, it's not going to happen.
I don't see Kyrie going to LA and just falling back in line.
But if you're Kyrie, you're already asked to leave from playing with LeBron. You go to Boston, it seems like a turnkey situation that should work. It does not work.
Right.
It kind of looks like you go back crawling to LeBron.
I believe Kyrie Irving should, and I think he will, sign in LA.
The more I look at this, the more I think Kyrie's going to be a Laker. I think Kyrie and LeBron could come around in their own minds to seeing a reconciliation as, hey, what if Kobe and Shaq worked it out?
I would tell you that if he ended up in LA with LeBron, it would be formidable. I think it would make them Final Four in the Western Conference.
LeBron and Kyrie need to be friends with benefits. Just being friends is not enough. It's not enough because I tell you what the benefits are. The benefits are a legitimate chance to win a championship.
If Kyrie goes to the Lakers, the pairing of LeBron and Kyrie will elevate the Lakers back to where they belong, will elevate Kyrie back into the kind of player we imagine he can be, and will save the end of LeBron James's career.
No, he didn't. No, he didn't.
Three.
No, he didn't. He just shook his shoulders.
Little shuffle.
What? Doing a little bank out bounce right there. Are you kidding me?
I had a lot of time and was kind of tired a little bit, so I got a little second to get a deep breath and knock it down.
I'm sick.
Ice Trey and the Hawks stealing Game 1. Has your outlook on the Eastern Conference Finals changed?
Stealing?
Chris Paul is back, ladies and gentlemen. What does that mean for Game 3 of the Western Conference Finals? I hear he knows the Staples Center pretty well. And Steve Kerr says KD is more skilled than MJ. Is that BS or real talk? We'll talk about that. So quit horsing around and lock in.
That's my guy.
Because
that's
the jump starts right now.
That's the stuff I would do.
Welcome into The Jump. I am Rachel Nichols. Today I am joined in studio by 2016 champ Richard Jefferson, 2008 champ Kendrick Perkins. We are also joined remotely by 8-time All-Star, record 22 seasons played, future Hall of Famer Vince Carter. Our senior insider Adrian Wojnarowski is going to join us later. It's a packed show, people.
A lot going on.
But first, over in London, they do a special ceremony outside Buckingham Palace called the Changing of the Guard. To be honest, it's a bit overkill. It's not like we do some big whole fancy thing marking the moment the security guard standing out front of Target gets off his shift, but whatever, it's all good. Tourists in England love it, and hey, sometimes it is important to mark when a big change happens. Certainly, we are experiencing one right now in the NBA. After a decade of the finals, including either the Warriors or whatever team LeBron is playing for, we have 4 franchises left who have not been to the mountaintop in at least 50 years, if at all. And then there's the player side of things. For the first time in more than 70 years, according to Elias, half of the top 10 scorers in the playoffs are under 25. We've seen absolute magic from Devin Booker, John Morant, Donovan Mitchell, Luka Doncic, and of course, Trae Young, who took his show on the road last night and dazzled once again. It's worth noting that they aren't favored to win the Eastern Conference Finals, and yet you'd never know that watching the confidence that Trae plays with. Look at some of these shots. The Bucks kept daring Trae to shoot the mid-range, and so he kept taking him up on it.
Look at that. Like that's a layup. That's a layup.
Then we get to the third quarter, and well, let's listen to Marvin Reg for a minute here.
So how are they going to find an answer for this man right here? Oh, my goodness. All right.
Oh,
no, he didn't.
with a little shake
No,
of the
he
shoulder.
didn't. No,
and
he
hits the
didn't.
3.
No, he didn't.
Did.
Yes, he did. The man just flat out shimmied in someone else's building with the game far from won yet, but it did not matter when Trae is feeling it. He is feeling it, and as he noted later, he was feeling it plenty there. Take a listen.
Yeah, I mean, I had a lot of time. And was kind of tired a little bit, so I got a little second to get a deep breath and knock it down.
I feel like we're thinking the same thing you guys are. It's like, wow, he just did that. It's like a lot of made that.
And I felt like there was just, everybody was just so far out. I was like, oh, damn, nobody's around? Like, was it that bad? Because, yeah, I was like, wow,
it's wide open.
Amazing. Later in the huddle, Giannis tried to fire his guys up by demonstrating how disrespectful Trae had been. And it seemed to work as the Bucks surged to a 7-point lead with less than 5 minutes on the clock. But Atlanta has been coming back from behind all playoffs. This time, the Hawks went on a 16-6 run to pull ahead. And after the Bucks missed 2 3-pointers in the final 30 seconds, Atlanta had its Game 1 win. Here was Trae's stat line, by the way. 48 points, 7 rebounds, 11 assists. Now, look, it is absolutely possible Giannis and the Bucks will storm back in Game 2. They showed in the last series they have more heart than some give them credit for. Just like it's absolutely possible Paul George and the Clippers come back on Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton, and the rest of the young Suns tonight. But either way, it is clear that the new guard that has been storming through these NBA playoffs is here to stay. I'm not sure if Trae Young has one of those giant fuzzy hats, but I have no doubt if he wanted to, he could pull it off. He's pretty much been pulling off whatever else he wants to lately. And Vince, you know this Hawks team so well. Did that 48 from Trae Young change your outlook on whether the Hawks can actually win this series and become an NBA Finals team for the first time since the 50s?
It's changed my outlook for sure. And I'll tell you why. It's that they believe. They believe. It's like, okay, we're here. You know, I want to win, but let's see what happens. After the way the Bucks are playing defense, it changed my outlook because they believe. But here's the thing that I want to touch on. We watched him in Game 1 versus the Knicks, Game 1 versus Sixers. He was facilitating, laying the land, see what's going on. They wouldn't allow him to have the free range to just go down the lane and shake them haters off when he's shooting the three. But you see the difference in this series. They're letting him do whatever it is he wants. And the adjustment is going to be what? They can't stop him. Are you going to not play Brook Lopez? I don't know. But right now, they're proving they belong and they can play and they can compete in the NBA Finals. With that being said, what did Trae Young say? One down.
One
down.
He held up that one.
I'm about tired of
That's
Trae.
one down.
I'm about tired of Trae Young.
But you're tired of him being fabulous?
I'm sick of this. No, because this is what.
You're tired of him winning?
No, yes, because I got to keep getting texts from people that kind of know basketball. And be like, is Trae Young really that good? Yes, he's that good. And somebody should tell the Milwaukee Bucks, right? Somebody should tell, like, you can't just sag off of him. And it's like same with Chris Paul. You're just going to give him that little floater. You're going to give him that mid-range shot. How many times? Look, when people show you who they are, believe them. He's shown you who they are. Bud, I love you. Bud, I had him in San Antonio. He's an Arizona guy. That is not going to work. A drop with Brook Lopez ain't going to work unless Brook Lopez is giving you 20, 22, and 7 on the other end. Like, you got to play with more small. You got to give him more pressure. He's telling you who they are. What does he say? He's like, I had a lot of time, so I thought I'd shimmy on you. That level of disrespect that's showing your defense and showing your players, like, I'm sick of Trae. I'm tired of answering texts about how good he is.
Well, I mean, when it comes down to me, I've been screaming Trae Young for the longest. I'm just saying, RJ, I actually picked him to beat Philly because he's a bona fide superstar. He's a 4-level scorer. He gets the job done. Now, what happened was that the Milwaukee Bucks showed up in their Louis slippers, polo top, and linen shorts because it's in June. Instead of dressing warm.
But their balls wasn't hot. They wasn't knocking down shots.
You have to dress warm when you're playing against Ice Trae. You have to strap up your boots. And what ended up happening was that, listen, they took the Atlanta Hawks for granted. The Bucks, they win that semifinals against KD and the Brooklyn Nets, and they were like, you know what? This is what we got to get over. We getting over this hump. It's easy selling. And what happened was they got punched in the mouth. You know this, RJ. You know this, Rachel, from being around. You cannot disrespect the basketball guards. The Milwaukee Bucks played horrible basketball. They was playing carefree. They was turning the ball over. This was not the same defense that I saw against the Brooklyn Nets.
Well, I mean, I will say this. The Bucks were in it. Right? They were in it. They were leading by 7 with 4 minutes and 18 seconds to go.
Our bar is so low for some of these teams. In it, you're at home. You just beat the Brooklyn Nets. You got two-time MVP, and they're in it. No, in it ain't it. In it ain't it. Like, Trae Young is the best closer. Maybe him, Chris Paul, Devin Booker. They're the best closers left to go in this league. He's been closing all. Being in it ain't it if you're the Milwaukee Bucks, with all due respect.
All right, wait. Producer Steve, can you play that video, though, for me before I get to the next thing? Because this was one of my favorite moments, the pushing back and forth.
See, that's
that is so RJ. That is so RJ.
Of Richard Jefferson. Thank you, Vince. Thank you.
Because it's all fun, man. You have fun out there.
Brooke was like, tag, you're it.
That was unbelievable.
What's going on?
I love it's the little moments that make me happy.
That was the closest anybody had been to Trae in weeks.
Oh, please.
No.
Let's talk about the Bucks side of things. It is the first time the entire postseason that they have dropped at a home game, right? So second straight series. They've lost game 1, though, because they, of course, started on the road last series. Perk, you did pick Milwaukee before this series. Do you still trust the Bucks?
Yeah, I'm sticking with the Bucks. One thing about it, look, they will adjust. They will play better. At the end of the day, this is not the Bucks team that we saw against the Miami Heat or the Brooklyn Nets. They're going to come out back and respond. And look, one thing about it, we could talk about Trae Young, and rightfully so, but they still don't have an answer for Giannis.
Yeah.
And Chris Middleton is not going to shoot that poorly. Go ahead, RJ. You point your finger. Go ahead. Do what you got to say.
I wouldn't point.
No, go ahead. Say what you got to say.
Well, listen, I apologize. I'll interpret for Perk for anybody that doesn't understand, like, Southern Texas accents. What he's saying. What he's saying.
He had Church's Chicken retweeting him today.
That's not a positive thing here. Have you said, look,
he speaks to people. Perk speaks to the people.
That Church's Chicken is speaking to other parts of Perk, but we'll talk about that later.
A lot of Perk to love.
Look. My thing about this is that the Bucks are the better team. They are the superior team. But part of the frustration in last year, the year before, is that the Bucks weren't playing up to their ability. So do I believe that the Bucks will ultimately win this series? If they do what they're supposed to, but that's not something that should be overly applauded. You're going against a team with no all-star, a 22-year-old player that is dominating the league. And you got all of this. When I say what does that mean? That means you have 2 all-stars, you have 2 MVPs, you have the former defensive player of the year. This is a team that you should dominate. I'm sorry, that's what they should do. And they've never done that in the postseason. That's why no one ever truly believes on them. So even if they win this series and they beat Trae Young, is that something that we should sit there and be overly excited about?
What you mean?
As of right now, RJ, though, you got to think about this real quick. As of right now, you got to think about this. Bucks are hung over, if you would. Hung over from their win. So like you said, they walked in like, okay, now we just beat Brooklyn. Now we have the Hawks.
They beat a third of Brooklyn.
Look,
they beat a third of Brooklyn. So you shouldn't be overly excited if you barely beat a broken down Brooklyn team. You should keep that edge. That's what I'm trying to express.
It's like a third and a half a third.
I'm saying that's what they beat a third of Brooklyn. Okay,
well, I'll tell you what. I'll tell you one thing. 2 things. One, they swept the Miami Heat that outed them last year, right? Okay, then on top of that, it's no other team in the Western Conference, in the Eastern Conference, in my opinion, that would have been able to withstand or beat the Brooklyn Nets the way that Kevin Durant was playing, except for the Milwaukee Bucks. And RJ, you and Vince are overreacting to one game, and y'all know, and you should know, especially you, from being a former champion, from being part of one of the greatest championships of all time, coming back from 3-1, that you never. It's a long series. So what? They came out. They came out casual. They came out. They was cool. They was relaxed.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry if I have a high standard for teams that I believe are going to potentially win a championship. Because once they're up in the rafters as champions, then there's a standard that has been set or that you ultimately accomplish. And they've been cheating the basketball gods more times.
And you have to give props to a team who does not have this experience. The Milwaukee Bucks have this experience. They went out there and played. No, they played like they were the team that didn't have the experience, and the Hawks looked like they had more experience. And they did what they're supposed to do. Well, you got to give them their credit.
Let me correct you, since you have a degree from North Carolina, and let me correct Mr. Arizona himself.
I don't think there's a degree there.
Listen, you don't have a degree, but listen, they came out with a sense of entitlement. That's what the Milwaukee Bucks did. They came out with a sense of entitlement.
But what have they ever accomplished to do that?
And the Hawks play like they were not afraid.
We're done. I'm done.
We're taking a quick timeout. I, by the way, have to apologize to the Hawks franchise. I said they haven't been in the finals since the 50s. I was wrong. It was 1961.
Oh, don't apologize.
I was off by like a year and a half. By the way, they were in St. Louis when they won their last title, 1958. It's been a while. It's been 50 years for the Bucks. The Suns and the Clippers, of course, never got into the finals. This is very exciting. I'm all for the new.
He was down for the backboard pass all the time.
J Kidd tried to do a double alley-oop one time, double off the backboard.
He did.
Woo! LeBron James, 2013 from Dwayne Wade. Who else?
With the left hand.
With the bad unis, though. I can't look at those shirt sleeves and not
they were so
have a visceral reaction.
That's the one that's hanging in my house.
I am
the championship.
Kenyon Martin, 2004.
Oh, I remember this one.
That would be Kenyon Senior for all of you new style NBA fans.
Oh, that's what you call snatching the screws out the window.
Oh, was that Mark Jackson against the Knicks?
Absolutely, with the Knicks, yes.
Dude. Woo! Russell Westbrook, 2009.
Oh, this was nasty.
Oh. That was the young boy.
At the end.
I was about to say young boy.
Oh, Earl Watson. Oh, poor Bellinelli. Well, he had 40 in the summer league that year.
Oh, rest is so. He don't know no better.
Gerald Green, 2006, Burke.
You could throw it anywhere.
I was actually on the sideline then.
Yeah.
That was the only bright spot of that season because we lost 18 in a row.
Yeah, but look what happened not long afterward, right? Come on.
I see you, TA.
Exactly. I want to move on to USA Basketball. The roster taking shape, led by Kevin Durant. It will also include, this is Team USA, Dame Lillard, Draymond Green, Brad Beal, Bam Adebayo, Jason Tatum. James Harden did withdraw because of his hamstring injury. He will not be able to make it. Richard, Is this a gold medal roster in your eyes?
Yes, because they have the shooting. The one time we didn't win the Olympics,
Were you
you're
there?
welcome.
Were you there?
Yes,
I can't remember.
I was a participant to make sure that the next 20 years were successful. We didn't have enough shooting. The starting lineup
so you took one for the team?
I took one for the team. Thanks for not showing up, Vince. Remember when you backed out, Vince?
That's what we're calling
when
it
you
now.
backed out, Vince? Why'd you back out, Vince?
Come on, man, cut it out.
Yeah. Oh, now it wants to cut it out. Okay, everybody wants to
Vince
cut it
has
out.
plenty of Olympic highlights and
He was supposed to be in 04. He backed out. Him and Kobe and J. Kidd and Bibby and Ray Allen.
They thought they could depend on you.
That was dumb. I was wrong.
Rachel, don't let RJ blame Vince for his lack of productivity.
No.
Okay, you just didn't produce.
It took productivity is not a 9-syllable word.
Yeah, whatever.
It
It
take
is
you
for
10
me.
seconds to get
I mean, whatever.
Vince, the starting lineup, if we want to look at that list again, KD obviously going to be on it, right? So who else would you see filling out the rest of that starting five? And please say Damian Lillard.
Damian Lillard, Devin Booker, KD, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're feeling kind of froggy, you can also use Bradley Beal. But I'd say Jason Tatum at the 3.
All right.
Well, that's wrong, but...
Why, you want to swap in the other St. Louis guy for the other St. Louis guy?
No, it's Damian Lillard, it's Devin Booker, it's Kevin Durant, it's Jason Tatum, it's Bam Adebayo.
Oh, you want Bam?
Yeah, because Bam can stretch the floor, but he also can defend multiple positions. I love Draymond Green, but we saw last Olympics or World Championship, Draymond wasn't that much a part of the rotation because you still need to have some scoring threats. It's not just a straight facilitator. Bam can score and facilitate.
Well, you could tell the two guys that didn't play defense in the league because you got to have some type of defensive identity. And so if you start Damian Lillard, Kevin Durant, and Devin Booker, you have enough offensive firepower in those three guys. So you need to have Bam at the 5, and you need to start Draymond at the 4. Because one thing Draymond is good is initiating the offense. And so at the end of the day, he can anchor that defense. He can anchor that defense along with Bam Adebayo, and I think that's a perfect fit. Yeah, that's how I've been calling his name.
It's never going to.
Yeah, Rachel, tell him it's never going to change. Okay, I am who I am, Richard.
I will say this, Kendrick. It's the Olympics. They're probably not going to need much defense for the early, first round robin situation. But when they get up there,
don't do that.
I am just going off of. I'm going with the facts off of past experience.
Luka Doncic's playing?
And then,
somebody got to guard that man.
Well, that is true. I would just say that as it gets tighter, look at that and the hair and everything, and of course we remember this one.
That's a charge.
I'm just saying that as you go up through the quarterfinals and semis and finals, obviously that's where the defense comes in.
Yeah, all three of those guys. All three of those guys are supposed to be on the Olympic team. I was,
There we go. Vince, I will leave that with you, that photo of you over poor Frederick. That will
I Amazoned you some AirPods, Vince. You're riding any day.
Hey, they was calling you radio before.
Vince, thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you very soon. I know. We'll see you soon, Vince.
You got on, RJ.
Thank you, man. I love those double hearing aids you have.
Coming
Not
up,
that old, Vince.
we're going to get to the Western Conference Finals. CP3 coming back for games. Jay Crowder inbounding DeAndre Ayton. Matt Weiner from NBA TV dubbing it the Valley Oop, which immediately got the stamp of approval from the team itself. That gave the Suns a 2-0 lead in the series as it moves to Los Angeles
and
tonight.
Paul George is asking for goaltending.
Welcome back to the gem. I mean, honestly, DeAndre Ayton said that he didn't know the rule on that. So a lot of players on the floor did not know the rule.
DeAndre Ayton's been playing for 12 minutes. He's been playing basketball.
I am just saying that the guy who scored the bucket said that he was worried about goaltending
Instead of Paul George asking for goaltending, he should have been worried about knocking down those free throws.
Well, look, he has played. He
prior.
has played fantastic for a while now, and that was an unfortunate moment, and we've seen that before. Welcome back to The Jump. I'm Rachel Nichols, joined by Richard Jefferson, Kendrick Perkins, our senior insider. Adrian Wojnarowski is going to join us in just a moment to talk coaches, but I do want to get to that Suns-Clippers game first. Chris Paul is available for the game tonight. Well, he is planning on playing after missing the first 2 games, of course, to those health and safety protocols. Kawhi Leonard still listed as out for this game. Ty Lue has said he just has to plan as if Kawhi will not be with them the whole series. Perk, the Clippers have come back from down 2-0 twice already in this postseason. No team has ever done that before. How can they do it again?
They can. Not against this Phoenix Suns team. And Chris Paul coming back And here's the reason why, right? We all know that Ty Lue is one of the best, if not the best in the game today for his coaches and making adjustments. But guess what? He has another coaching staff over there that's ready to play chess as well. But they don't have an answer. Look, we already know that Devin Booker and Cameron Payne has been in their bag like they got fries at the bottom, okay? But DeAndre Ayton is the X factor, and I don't know how can they neutralize him. They haven't played against a bag like him, against a guy like him in the playoffs, right? You have Jokic, but Jokic is not athletic. Jokic can't sprint the floor. Jokic is not a lob threat. And the way that DeAndre Ayton has been anchoring the defense, I just don't know. He's averaging 22 and 11 and shooting almost 100% from the field.
Yeah, 100% from the field is a tough one to overcome. I agree with you, Perk. But look, the problem is that they weren't far off. The Clippers were not far off from winning this game.
No, they were in both of those games.
Yeah, they were mistakes away from winning this game, which obviously in the postseason comes back to haunt you. But I just think that the Clippers, obviously Game 3 is going to be very, very important. It's all about a chess match, but you can't do chess matches on missed free throws. You can't do chess matches on missed assignments. They put them in the position. Paul George played great. For 47 minutes of that game, he played outstanding. But to be a true closer where you got your Nike shoe, you got all the love, you are all everything, that is the moment to close. Now, I'm not going to fault you, but Game 3, there's going to be a lot of eyes.
I think, look, people have missed free throws in the history of big pressure finals games. I'm not ready to single Paul George out for those 2 missed free throws as a crime against humanity.
Yeah,
I mean,
for Clipper humanity, it is. When you're shorthanded and you have a chance to win, and it's like you have a chance to knock down these free throws and put your chance in a position where imagine even having 2 or 3 points on that board, that defense becomes exponentially easier for you. So you put your best players in a position to succeed, and if they don't, they get all the credit and all the blame. We've played with enough guys that lived in that world.
Rachel, RJ, I got a question for you guys, right?
Save your questions till the end.
Going into this series, without Chris Paul, the first 2 games, everyone, including myself, was saying, you know what? I think that the Clippers should get 1 on the road, if not 2, especially without CP3. CP3 comes back tonight. You know what that does for that locker room of young guys? You know what type of mission CP3 is going to be on tonight? He makes a total difference.
I'm excited.
If you're the Clippers, if you couldn't beat this young team without Chris Paul, how am I expecting you to beat them with Chris Paul?
Well, here's what's tough, right? To RJ's point, Ty Lue has come back from these 0-2 deficits twice, and we're going to talk about this a little more later in the show with all of the adjustments he's made, right? He has proven once again why he is an elite X and O coach. That being said, they didn't lose because of an adjustment issue because the adjustment wasn't made. They lost because of free throws that didn't go in, and then, frankly, some missed defensive assignments in that last play there. When you go break down that last play, there are some things where guys were not where they were supposed to be and doing what they were supposed to be doing. I don't know how you fix that. And you're right, Perk, the idea that they couldn't at least try to steal one with Chris Paul not there. It's going to get harder with Chris Paul there. So it will be interesting to see what they come back with. But this is a team that has proven to us over and over, the Clippers, this postseason, you cannot count them out just because they are down by a couple games. You just can't. So there you go. I want to get to the coaching carousel because it continues to spin, baby. We're still working on getting Teresa Witherspoon on this coaching tournament on that one. But yesterday, the Celtics agreed to hire Nets assistant Ime Udoka as their next coach. Prior to his role as an assistant for Steve Nash this season, Udoka spent 1 season with the Sixers, 7 years under Greg Popovich with the Spurs. Then today, Rick Carlisle told our Tim McMahon he has agreed to a 4-year deal to become the next coach of the Indiana Pacers. The deal worth $29 million plus incentives, sources said. That leaves 5 head coach vacancies at the moment. And now joining us to discuss all matters of coaching vacancies, our senior insider, Adrian Wojnarowski. So glad to actually have you in the building, my friend. This is lovely after a year and a half. What can you tell us about the hires both in Boston and in Indiana?
Well, Ime Udoka, I think the relationships and the kind of players he had coached in San Antonio, you know, Kawhi Leonard certainly on the back end of it, Philadelphia, Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid, and then in Brooklyn with the group they had this year. Experience, not just coaching elite players, but building relationships with them. He's going to have to do that in Boston, certainly with Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum. He's got 2 All-Stars under 25 years old. And, you know, I think Brad Stevens really liked the varied experiences he's had. 3 different organizations, obviously played in the league. But I think for that process, Boston was really a job that I think everybody who was in the candidate market looked at that Boston job and saw, were really excited about it, especially because of the great young talent they had there. But Udoka separated himself early in that process, and he was certainly a popular choice among their key players who had played under him with Team USA, with Greg Popovich in the Worlds in 2019. 3 of their returning players, all had a lot of great things to say about him.
What do you think, former Boston Celtic, of the hire?
You know what? I actually love it. To be honest, yeah, I actually love it. And here's why, right? When you look at Udoka and you look at what all he has done with his playing career, playing with Hall of Famers like Tim Duncan, and then going into his coach's career, being the assistant of one of the greatest of all time, and Greg Popovich. So my thing is, it's all about managing egos, right? And you have 2 young rising superstars in my eyes, and Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. That's your focal point. And you got to bring a guy in there that they can relate to. And I feel like that's a perfect fit to me, because he's a guy that's going to go in there. He's going to be able to hold them accountable. They have to respect him because he's been around greats. He's coached greats. He's played with greats. There's nothing you could tell him.
What I like about this is when you bring in coaches that have learned how to build relationships with great players, but for themselves, they're more role players. It allows them to connect with the guys. Like, these are the sacrifices that I'm asking of you because they've been asked of me before. You look at Tyronn Lue. He's been on that side, played with great players, but was also a role player. Monty Williams played with great players, but was also a role player. Because as much as it is reaching your stars, we saw that with the Clippers last year. They were like, well, the role players versus the star treatment, and a lot of that back and forth. You got to be able to connect not just with the star players, and he has that ability, but also to connect with the rest of the team, making sure they're understanding why you sacrifice.
It's going to be really fascinating to see everything that happens with that Celtics team, right? First time for Brad Stevens in the front office. I do want to get to Indiana, though.
Right.
I asked producer Steve today for some video of young Rick Carlisle in his first stint as head coach of the Pacers, but the hair was different, all of that stuff. I don't know if we'll see that in a minute, but there we go. Look at that. Young Rick.
Nice little coif right there.
Right? So nice.
That's what happens with coaching in the NBA will do to you.
You will, yes. How did Rick end up back where he once began, as you say?
Yeah, this was, I talked to Kevin Pritchard, their president, today, and just knowing that day one, Rick Carlisle commands respect in that organization, and it brings respect back to the head coaching position because they lost it this year with Nate Borkman after they let go of Nate McMillan the year before. And I think for Indiana, a roster that is a good roster. Is this a championship roster? No. But is this a roster that you can see winning around in Eastern Conference playoffs with the right coach? Yes. And I think, Kevin Pritchard, he still leans on Larry Bird and Donnie Walsh and those guys who were there in the front office prior to him and still kind of serve as consultants. They were all for this, and Herb Simon, their owner, who had Rick in there previously. And I think especially, and then it's $7 million a year. I think $7 million plus, as Tim McMahon reported. I think it's Indiana's message that we're serious. We are trying to win. And listen, Rick Carlisle is probably, good chance he might be a Hall of Fame coach someday. He's won a championship. There weren't